Do you want to know how to actually succeed in GCSE English Literature? I'm going to show you how to write the best possible essay, how to analyze quotations in real time, and give you comprehensive study resources to turn your grades around. This is Mission Undercover. Let's start with some reflections on the texts. So I'm studying Macbeth, Inspector Calls, and Jekyll and Hyde, but this advice applies to all texts. Learning your quotes is arguably the most important thing to do, and when you're revising, you should organize your quotes based on all the themes and characters of the novel. So that could be social responsibility, that could be morality, it could be anything. Because the test could ask you about either character or theme. So what I did was I went through all of my texts and organized all the quotes that I found that I thought were good, that I thought had good methods into the different themes and characters. So my advice would be, because most people can't be bothered to do all of that, go into AI and ask it to find you 10 different quotations for each of the themes and characters. And then you can pick the ones that you can analyze the best from those 10 that AI gives you. After this, you need to memorize them and choose the quotes with big methods like similes and metaphors, because these are going to get you more marks and they'll have more detailed analysis accompanying them. Now that you've chosen your quotes and you're going to start practicing memorizing them, I'm going to give you an unpopular opinion about what to do next. I think that memorizing analysis is not really a helpful strategy, because if you forget, you have nothing to fall back on, no backup if you can't remember the things that you memorized. So what you should do instead is practice analyzing the quotes you've chosen without any outside help. Write it down in the middle of your page and see what you can come up with. Look at the connotations of specific verbs, adverbs, nouns, and noun phrases. This doesn't have to be elaborate. It can just be simple based on your understanding, because you're a reader and you have thoughts about what you read, and that's what the English literature is all about. So everyone can have something they can think about and some original thought that can come to their mind. So use how you feel about the text and convey your own personal views about it. Then you need to consider how this understanding relates to the context of the text, context of the book, and the writer's purpose. Why is the writer saying this, and how does this relate to how the situation of society was at the time? So, for example, in Spectacles, you could say that Priestley has done this to criticize contemporary class structures. This is how society was organized at the time. So after this, you'll have some good analysis. Most importantly, you'll be able to focus on just memorizing the quotations, because you'll have so much practice analyzing quotations on the go. So write it down in the middle of your page and try and get more efficient at analyzing the quotes as you see them. And this will help you with the other aspects of literature as well, like unseen poetry especially. So I'm going to show you an example of how to do this. And I'll show you with the text that I'm least familiar with to prove that it works. So I've got this quotation from Jekyll and Hyde, like a fire in the forest. So fire shows that it's uncontrollable and that it's dangerous. That's the connotations right there. And then you could say that that's a metaphor that represents his desires. It represents Jekyll's desires as being uncontrollable and immoral. This could show how he is unable to control them and how he is enslaved to his desires. This is the type of thing that you need to say. And I just came up with this right now. It's not scripted. So you need to make sure that you're taking off writer's purpose. So why has he done this? Context, all of this stuff. So you could say that Stevenson was doing this to reflect on morality in contemporary society. Victorians had a very restrictive idea of morality, encouraged the repressed self. They encourage you to repress your desires rather than express them freely. They encourage Christian ideals of obeying God and not chasing vain desires. This is the type of things you need to say. You need to relate to the context of the time. And you could say that Stevenson's criticizing it. Stevenson's emphasizing it, because what happens later on is that Jekyll's moral decay leads to mental decay. So that could show how he is bearing the brunt, the consequences of his immoral actions. And that could be reinforcing the social ideals of the time. Or he could be criticizing it. That's an alternative interpretation. You could say that the consequences of it are that Jekyll is unhappy and he is deranged because of the lack of freedom that he has. So once you've analyzed one quote, support it with another quotation. So I've got this one, and I could support it with something else to make sure that the examiner understands that I have the analysis nailed down. Once you've done that, you need to consider how the audience responds, or the reader, depending on what type of text it is. So for plays, it's audiences, and for books, it's readers. So you need to do that with two things. So you could do it for contemporary audiences, so that's audiences at the time. What would they feel about it? And then you need to do about modern audiences. So for that quote above that I just mentioned, contemporary audiences would be horrified and outraged at the actions of Jekyll. because they would perceive it as immoral and against the Christian ideals of the time. But modern audiences would be sympathetic to him because society is more liberal nowadays. So that's how you relate it to the context of the time and the context of the current era. Say that modern readers would consider about capitalism and consumerism and how all these influences that shape people's behavior can obscure morality and lead to overindulgence and excess, which is a prevalent thing that we can see in society today. This is a stark contrast to the repression and conservatism of the society of the time, which encouraged repression of gluttony and vain desires. Well, that again links to Christianity. This is what you need to do to make sure that the context is intertwined with what your analysis is. Another thing to make sure you do is that you're tentative and critical in your analysis. So when you're writing something, don't say that it's definitely that. You could say that Stevenson could be saying this. People could perceive this because it's not certain. Everyone has a different interpretation. And make sure that once you've given one view, you support it with another view, an alternative view, a completely contrasting view to show the depth that you have and the depth of understanding that you have. The thing is, big ideas linked to context. That is a key thing that you need to do. So after you've practiced developing this analysis of quotations, just try and link it to the big ideas of the time, the context. You need to do exam practice. That is the most crucial thing. Put a timer on and start writing. The more you practice, the quicker you'll answer the questions and the better you'll be in an exam situation. The better you'll be at analyzing memorized quotations. So you should probably spend around 45 minutes on each section on paper 2, I think. But I spend a bit longer on the inspector calls and spend a little bit less time on the unseen poetry. Without exam practice, you'll not be able to get a good mark. So you need to analyze a range of quotations. Once you've given your first quote, don't just stop there. Give a supporting quotation. Say, this is emphasized by this, or this is supported by this. And make sure your essay has 3 distinct topic sentences that each relate to a different writer's purpose. So for example, your first paragraph could be, Priestley aptly presents the ideas of social class in order to reflect on social inequality in society at the time. Or you could say, Shakespeare successfully portrays ideas of ambition to reflect on the instability of human nature. This incorporates big ideas whilst giving you the framework and the structure to help develop your ideas further. These topic sentences will help to guide your analysis. Once you're finished writing, upload your exam practice to AI and it will mark it for you with tailored feedback. That's a really good thing that I've found. And when I marked my essay with AI, I didn't get as a high mark as I would have liked. But then I improved it based on his feedback and I got a really high mark. And that mark was replicated in the actual exam. These big ideas that you will consider, morality, justice, and society, this will make your analysis and essay more developed and help you to intertwine your essay with the context and the response of the audience. This is the crucial thing that you need to do. And once you upload it into AI, it'll give you tailored feedback and you can ask it to help you do that. So you can say, help me to relate it to the context more, help me consider big ideas, what can I consider here? And that will make your analysis have a lot of depth and detail. Now I'm going to talk about the poetry anthology. For this, do not be fooled by your friends and other people around you who tell you that you only need to memorize 2 poems. Just memorize quotes from London and Ozymandias, for example. That's a lie. It's not going to help you and you're going to be screwed when it comes to your exam. You don't need to memorize quotes from every poem. You just need to have enough from each theme. So, for example, you can memorize quotes from 3 poems about the power of nature. Or you could memorize 3 quotes about the power of man or something like that. It's all about the themes and having different things to pick from for each theme in your anthology. So choose the ones that you can analyze best. And again, try to do it without memorizing analysis so that you can have an original perspective when it comes to the exam and so that you have more depth and so that it doesn't sound like a generic scripted answer. You want to capture the attention of the examiner. They're going to read some similar things. And if you just copy something that you saw online, it's going to be the same as everyone else and you're just going to get a lower grade. That is guaranteed. English is all about being more creative. So think of your own original perspective. Everyone is intelligent enough to think of something themselves. So don't be fooled by this age of AI, this age of the internet. Try and think of it yourself. Except for the quotations, you also need to link down context. You need to nail down context and form and structure. So the latter is particularly difficult because form and structure isn't something that you see all the time. And I advise you to look on BBC Bitesize, which has some good stuff. Save my exams for some analysis relating to form and structure. It's really hard to think of what the purpose of that form and structure is, but it's quite difficult, but you can think of things, for example. So for example, if the poet's using end-stop lines, you could say that the end-stop line represents the restrictiveness of the city. You could say the enjambment represents her confusion or something like that. It's very obscure, very difficult to get something definite on it, but you can have something just to get it in there. When writing, you obviously need to be focused on the writer's purpose and the context most of all. And you need to use clear topic sentences again, like the literature essay as well. Make sure you integrate your comparison throughout your analysis. Don't just analyze one poem at a time, then do the other. The highest marks will always be those who have the clearest understanding of the writer's purpose and how it compares across both poems, what each poet is trying to do compared to the other poet. And you need to compare throughout the similarities and the differences. The only way you can get the highest marks is considering how context relates to the themes and how the writer is using language and the structure to help convey those themes. Finally, the unseen poetry. This is a sizable amount of marks, and you can't just prepare for this because you're not going to have the text in front of you. It's going to be completely new. This is why analyzing quotations on the go is a really helpful practice, because you'll be able to do this a lot more effectively for the unseen poetry section. In this section, the key is you're trying to look for grouped methods. So that could be semantic fields, when 3 or more similar themed quotes appear, or an extended metaphor, which is some metaphor that appears throughout the poem. You need to again explore why the writer might have said something. What big idea is he trying to present? So for example, in my mocks, I had a poem about a table, and I noticed that the table was an extended metaphor for life or memories or something similar to that. So after you notice something like that, consider why the writer might be doing this. Is it to reflect on the hectic nature of life? Is it to reflect on the beauty of life? Is it to reflect on the hardships of life? It could be anything, and this is the different strands of reasoning that you can bring into this, and you can base it on what methods are available to you and how the writer is using them to convey that meaning. Despite all the other advice I've given, the single most important thing is still to do regular and consistent exam practice. There's no escaping it. Whoever does the most exam practice will always get the highest marks. You'll be able to apply all your skills in exam situations more effectively, and you'll be able to manage your time more effectively. So now that you know how to write a good essay in exam conditions, you've done exam practice, you know how to analyze quotes on the go, you can consider those big ideas and alternative interpretations, you need to solidify all the knowledge that you have. You need to keep revising all the content, watch some YouTube videos on the poetry and different books to help keep you on the right track. They have on YouTube quite a lot of these summary guides for all the plays and poetries, and that'll be really helpful for especially the poetry because it's 15 different poems. It's going to be really hard for you to remember what happened in each of them. So if you watch just a summary of the whole anthology on YouTube, that'll be really helpful for you. So you need to just do the exam practice, keep that knowledge in your head, and make sure that you can apply it in the exam situation. Please subscribe to support the channel and to stay up to date with other similar videos. I'm going to release some more GCSE subject guides soon. If you want access to my full English GCSE resources at dangerously low prices, including my grade 9 exam paper and high-level analysis, other study resources as well, go to the link in the description. It's not that expensive and I really recommend it. I hope to see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.